I've been an architect now for kind of nearly 25 years. So previously I was in practice. I was in practice for around about 15, 16 years in total before moving to academia. And what I'd like to do today is just talk a little bit about what kind of things architects can do during their job, because if you guys are interested in architecture, obviously you kind of want to know what we do and how we do it. So I started relatively kind of in large practices. So one of the practices I worked for was Zardid Architects in London, who are quite a big practice, but it really depends who you're interested in working for and working with. I was really interested in the slightly larger, slightly more spacious, bigger projects. So that's the way I went and was really interested in. This is just an example of a project that I worked on. So this is a building in Glasgow, and it's called the Glasgow Transport Museum on the River Clyde. And this is kind of, it depends which practice you work for, but this is kind of what a lot of architects do see on their desktop, and in the office when they're sitting down and drawing, which is a kind of often a virtual drawings, virtual 2-dimensional or even 3-dimensional drawings on the screen. This is a software called Digital Project, Katia, and it's a kind of a parametric software. But what it does is it allows you to look at all the different types of details and all the different scales of the building and really understand how it all goes together. So a lot of an architect's job is actually putting things together in as efficient way as possible. What you really don't want is you don't want beams or columns coming out of the building, which is never a good idea. So the idea is that you work really closely with the design team and make sure that everything fits and it works on site. As with all buildings, most buildings go on site. So a lot of that, the work of the architect is also to speak to the design team, speak to the fabricators, makers, and to the contractors as well. So you'll be going out to site quite a lot. When I was working on this, I had to fly up to Glasgow from London every week to speak with the contractors. And when you get on site, you need to have a look, make sure that everything conforms to what you've drawn already, basically. And you basically go and kind of troubleshoot issues. And the issues could be in relation to how structure's fitting or how the mechanical engineer is fitting in, or it might even have to do with the program itself. This is the actual site. So this is in Glasgow. This is on the banks of the River Clyde, and you can kind of see the building at the bottom there with the cranes. And this is it going up with some of the contractors at the front. This was quite a complex job. Most of the work that architects do isn't as complicated as this, but it just shows you the kind of breadth of the types of things we can be involved in. This is the steel work or the metal work from the roof of the building. And this is it going up and progressing through to the kind of final building, which is was built, I think it was about 7, 8 years ago now. So this is the best view of it from a helicopter from the roof, and this is it from kind of down below. So please have a look at that if you go by Glasgow at all. A slightly different project I worked on just after working at Zardid in London. I worked on the Olympic Village project, so I was project architect for the Olympic Village. Again, that was a very different, it was a similar scale, but it was actually quite a little bit bigger in terms of scale. So the one thing about, I suppose, the Olympic Village is that, and the Olympics, is that you can't really be late because the Olympics, the start date of the Olympics can't really change. So it was a really pressing schedule for creation of architecture. But even if, as architects, you are up against it in terms of time and budget, what we do as architects is we try to make sure that we retain the interest, the artisanship of design. So what we were interested in was how the Olympics were, originated from. So this is the Elgin marbles from the Parthenon in Greece, and said to be the first, the birthplace of the kind of the Olympics. So we went into the British Museum and we got permission to scan in the Elgin marbles, and then we recreated them or positioned parts of them using a kind of CNC router to create them, and then we molded them as parts of this kind of hung decorated panel on the outside. And it's quite an interesting approach. It kind of contrasts quite a lot with the existing architecture there, but I think it's always important, even if you're up against it in terms of time and budget, to really try to put something of interest into your buildings and design.